Welcome to Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Thanks for tuning in. We keep hearing progress reports on a coronavirus vaccine and that one could be ready this year. If you choose to get one, you may even see a big difference in the form of an RFID chip. However, only about half of Americans say they would get the vaccine. 31% say they are not sure they'd get vaccinated, and another 1 in 5 say they'd refuse. People who get a coronavirus vaccine may notice it looks a lot like their eye drops. They might also see an RFID chip on the package. The U.S. government has contracted Abiject Systems of America to make 100 million pre-filled syringes to quickly distribute a coronavirus vaccine. It would use a high-speed blow-fill-seal technology used in pre-filled single-use eye drops.
There are eyedropper facilities in the U.S., not many, but a few, that we are going to upgrade so they can handle vaccines. Then what will happen is those facilities will make the containers right here that will hold the vaccine. We will add a needle hub to them, and voila, you have a pre-filled syringe that's ready to use.
There's also space on each syringe for an optional radio frequency identification chip containing a unique serial number for each dose. It would not be injected or touch the patient. The chip would be scanned by healthcare workers in order to better track overall vaccine information.
It is designed so that there is no counterfeiting. It's designed so that we'll know exactly that the right dose hasn't expired. However, that chip only refers to the dose. There's no personal information, no patient information. It's simply like a barcode, only we know instantaneously where and when that dose has been used. That also helps public health officials know when there are outbreaks, have we vaccinated enough people in those areas?
The pre-filled syringes will add to the limited number of traditionally manufactured vaccine supplies, such as specialized equipment to fill glass jars, stoppers, needles, and syringes.
People are worried about, do we have enough medical glass to be able to put all of these doses of the vaccine into vials so that they can be administered? And that's a serious issue to think about right now, even as we are anticipating, if all goes well, that such vaccines may be available in millions of doses as soon as this fall.
The Department of Defense says once the vaccines are made, they'll be delivered to healthcare providers nationwide with the speed and efficiency of the U.S. military. Many states and several nations are rolling out so-called contact tracing for COVID-19 using an app on your cell phone. But is that going too far? Dale Hurd reports.
Health experts have long used contact tracing to stop epidemics like Ebola, and they're trying to use it to stop COVID-19. But getting already suspicious Americans to cooperate so that it works effectively will be tough. The CDC even gives contact tracing the creepy term of public health surveillance. Using either Bluetooth or location services on your phone, contact tracing apps record who we've been in contact with in case people nearby have COVID-19. Nations like Singapore are already using it.
Get peace of mind for you and your family through community-driven contact tracing.
Now, House Bill 6666. The COVID-19 Testing, Reaching, and Contacting Everyone or TRACE Act would give $100 billion to local organizations to help with testing and contact tracing by funding door-to-door outreach. Contrary to what some believe, it does not allow anyone to enter your home or allow the government to remove anyone from your home because of coronavirus. But could the government legally force us to take an app on our phones? Professor Brad Jacobs, a constitutional expert at Regent University, says no.
We do have protections against searches and seizures by the government. The Supreme Court just a couple years ago ruled that the government can't use pings off of cell towers to tell them where someone is without getting a warrant first.
But could the government restrict your freedom if you don't use a contact tracing app? Maybe.
Supreme Court has long held that no rights are absolute. the government can override a constitutional right, at least for a short period, if it can show what we call a compelling state interest.
Michael Dougherty, the CEO of LabMD, a medical testing lab who's been fighting federal overreach in his industry for years, is the author of The Devil Inside the Beltway, and he calls a tracing app Big Brother.
It's a huge excuse to give the government more information. And as we're seeing with who infiltrates our government, they will violate our rights and violate anyone's rights for political gain.
The notion that Americans will cooperate voluntarily with a contact tracing app seems to be dead on arrival. A recent poll showed less than a third of Americans would participate in tracing if it's run by the federal government.
We've seen how this ongoing pandemic affects everyone, including the military. As Eric Phillips shows us, military chaplains are doing what they can to help our troops.
Major General Thomas Soljem tells me spiritual fitness is a major pillar of military readiness. And he says during this challenging time, the 2,800 chaplains in his department are working overtime.
When you put on the uniform in service to your country, Eric, and you're asked to possibly lay down your life in rendering service to your country, we have a moral obligation to fulfill, to care for the soul of that soldier.
And Major General Soljem tells me that obligation to the soldier is more important than ever right now.
So you might have a death of a family member, for example, and you can't go to the funeral, or you have parents that are aged and shut in and you can't get there. Now, we have seen a reporting from our chaplains out in the field that there's been a real increase in a number of different areas for soldiers and their families reaching out to them for assistance, for spiritual direction, guidance, and for religious care as well for those things.
The same types of sacrifice civilians face, coupled with the added responsibility of service.
So, as with any worship, worship is centered around the light of Christ. And so we very much intentionally are lighting this light of Christ.
To meet the need, chaplains have increased the hosting of live services.
It's really a new phenomenon, and I'm really pleased to see how our people have stepped up to embrace the virtual environment in order to really continue to help people to stay connected.
And today's thought is on the importance of small things.
It means chaplains of all faiths across all military branches, not just ministering to troops and their families, but to all who tune in.
So it's really taught us, I think, to raise the quality of our speaking, of what we offer people in a worship service or setting.
And they're getting creative, like with the drive-in Easter service at this installation in Japan, or this Navy virtual service in Pensacola, Florida.
They've been even doing things like Zoom potlucks, right? So chapel groups or religious groups, doing virtual potlucks, just wanting to maintain fellowship, because that's a very important connection. So I see it in all of the struggle that people are facing. It's a tremendous opportunity for people to be touched in their lives spiritually that in many ways life as normal may not have produced.
Soljem says another positive of this challenging time is those in his department learning of one another's faith in a deeper way. And he says no matter how many chaplains he has, there's always room for one more.
When we come back, how the virus is disrupting our education system right after this.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres Cedillo, Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
The war on abortion hasn't ceased because of the ongoing pandemic. While it brought new challenges to abortion opponents, as Paul Strand reports, it's also provided opportunities to save more babies.
Heritage Foundation brought pro-life activists from very different worlds together to see how the pandemic is either helping or hurting their cause.
Brian Fisher's Human Coalition tries to change the minds of women planning to get abortions. They administered to almost 16,000 women in the 6 weeks before the COVID lockdown forced the organization to close its 7 pregnancy centers and just go to phones and internet.
In the 6 weeks afterwards, that call volume jumped to almost 24,000, a 48% increase in calls from women who were in some sort of crisis.
Yesterday, you tweeted that 12 babies were rescued from abortion, bringing that to a total of 16,414 babies rescued to date.
On the other hand, everything happening over the internet these days is giving abortion activists a chance to push abortion pills being mailed straight to women, bypassing doctors.
And Planned Parenthood's acting CEO, Alexis McGill-Johnson, calls this the silver lining of the pandemic. If your position is abortion everywhere without delay, you've got to solve the problem of making that possible when most doctors won't participate. And so what they're seeking is you and a stranger who you're talking to through your iPhone. Chemical abortion is completely unsafe at home. There's no possible way to make this safe.
On the legal front, some pro-life counselors outside abortion clinics have been arrested for breaking social distancing restrictions.
Well within the provisions.
It's a state statute.
It's well within the statute. We're doing everything.
But Alliance Defending Freedom lawyer Ken Conley said as some were hauled off to jail in Charlotte, their outreach with an ultrasound unit still saved lives.
One woman was seen in the mobile care unit, had an ultrasound and decided to keep the baby, and another woman as well. I don't think she was in the mobile care unit, but she decided to keep the baby as well as a result of the efforts of the people out there that day.
So even as the pandemic goes on, so do pro-life efforts to save the unborn.
The COVID-19 pandemic means uncertainty for the fall school year. As Heather Sells reports, that leads to unique problems for higher education.
Before the COVID lockdown, Christian college student Brianna Rios enjoyed her classes, student leadership, and time with friends. When the pandemic hit, life changed as her university went online and she struggled.
It made it extremely hard to grasp the material, to stay motivated. But luckily, my professors were extremely understanding and they made the coursework extremely interactive.
For many college students, this sudden pivot to online education became a disaster. An April survey by a key college marketing firm found that 7 in 10 students said their online experience was worse than in-person classes.
They hate it. They absolutely hate it.
Simpson Scarborough Chairman Elizabeth Johnson says students felt like they were teaching themselves and missed access to their professors. The big problem now, the number of students saying they're unlikely to return.
Over half of these kids' parents have been either furloughed or laid off. They say that their family's financial situation has changed dramatically. and higher education is not inexpensive, and so that's the biggest factor.
High school seniors are also uncertain, with a growing number changing their plans to attend a 4-year residential college. Many are opting for community college or online programs next year. Factoring in fewer freshmen and returning students means colleges could see a 20% dip in enrollment. For administrators, it's tough planning for the fall. Will COVID be short-lived, continue into 2021, or work itself out in multiple waves?
There's all kinds of scenario planning happening on college campuses. They're talking about things like having an option where only the freshmen come back to campus.
William Jessup University President John Jackson is urging students to continue with their college plans.
We are making every attempt to have fall classes resume. We might have to have half class capacity. We might have to have alternating between Zoom and face-to-face, but I think we're going to have that experience, and I would encourage students to search for a school that can give them that.
Regent University has offered online classes for years and easily made the switch this spring. Still, its chief academic officer says technology is not the solution.
We cannot rely on technology. What I've seen many schools do, again, K-12 and colleges, they somehow think technology is the answer. It's not. It's really faculty and teachers with a heart for the student.
Shanika Farias, an upperclassman at Gordon College in Massachusetts, says she'll be back in the fall but doesn't want online classes.
Just doing school at home is just not ideal. I have 2 younger sisters and a little brother who's 2 years old. So waking up in the morning and really trying to get ready for classes and really keeping up with school is just not the same.
She's trusting and praying that she and her classmates can go back to campus.
This is an opportunity for us to really take this situation. Okay, how can I turn this into something positive?
That may be the silver lining for higher ed. Students seeing just how much they appreciate the college classroom experience, face-to-face time with friends, and on-campus activities. Johnson is advising schools to help students remember what brought them to campus in the first place. And she's making the case that supporting universities should be a national priority, even during a pandemic.
We believe higher education is an essential service. The people who are going to discover a cure and build all the tests, they were educated at our American colleges and universities. I mean, this is an industry that must survive and must thrive to educate people who are going to contribute to our economy.
Could the COVID-19 pandemic cause a worldwide famine? That story when we come back.
Having sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
As the world searches for a way to recover from the COVID-19 impact, experts warn the pandemic could push millions to the brink of starvation. The United Nations warning if countries don't act now, people around the world could face multiple famines. George Thomas has more.
A new study by the United Nations shows an economic fallout that could push 500 million more people into famine conditions and economic dire straits.
Before COVID hit the scene just a few months ago, I'd already been warning leaders around the world, and especially in Europe, that Africa was in a lot of trouble and that we could have 2020 be the worst humanitarian crisis since World War II before COVID.
David Beasley runs the United Nations World Food Program. His agency says 55 countries at risk right now of severe famine. Sub-Saharan Africa potentially being the hardest hit. The program predicted that if current projections remain, the region will be home to half the world's poor. What countries are most at risk right now?
In Africa, for example, South Sudan will be, Burkina Faso, Sudan, Somalia, Ethiopia, DRC, just to name a few right off the top.
In Nigeria, where 90% of the revenues come from oil, the country's poor, struggling to get food on the table.
People must eat. I strongly believe that hungry is much more dangerous than even the coronavirus. So we must do our best to ensure that people get food to eat.
Political instability and wars in places like Afghanistan, Syria, Haiti, and Venezuela are also pushing people who were already hanging by a thread over the edge. In battle-scarred Yemen, for example, health workers sounding the alarm as vulnerable children face increased need.
We estimate that an additional 4 million children are going to slide into poverty as a result of COVID-19.
Beasley says lockdowns and sliding economies are making things even harder for the most vulnerable. He warns more people could lose their lives from the economic fallout than from the virus itself.
So if we don't have food, the monies we need, supply chain access, we literally could have famine in dozens of countries around the world. This is not a Chicken Little, the sky is falling. This is the reality that we're facing as we speak.
With hundreds of millions across the world already relying heavily on food aid from government and humanitarian groups, Beasley says it's critical that countries act now.
We have to keep the ports open. We have to keep the supply chain moving so food and commodities as well as medical supplies can get to the people in need.
And speaking of food shortages, we'll show you how the virus is causing hunger for people who never experienced it before.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Food banks continue to face challenges helping those in need. One recently kicked off a campaign bringing in Mercy Chefs, a group with experience helping during disasters. Charlene Aaron brings us the story.
In partnership with local agencies, Mercy Chefs is preparing and delivering restaurant-quality meals to senior citizens and at-risk kids impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Chef Gary LeBlanc leads the ministry, which has served more than 2 million meals at natural disaster sites in some 23 states and 8 nations.
Our hallmark is hot meals, but with this, we've been doing the cooking one day and blast chilling and freezing overnight, and then packing frozen meals that are then distributed to seniors and shut-ins. So it's a new thing for us.
It is all part of the initiative Food Plus Faith Equals Hope. The goal, get 15,000 meals each week to homebound seniors. Dr. Ruth Jones-Nichols oversees the food bank of southeastern Virginia and the Eastern Shore.
Through this partnership effort, we really are still relying on our faith-based organizations and communities to come together and really leverage food and faith to inspire hope.
And LeBlanc says this is far from simple fast food.
We're doing high-quality, handcrafted, chef-prepared meals. They're balanced, they're nutritious, and they're delicious. They're comfort food.
Campaign co-chair Bishop Courtney McBath says the current crisis has created tremendous demand.
Senior services and all these wonderful folks have always taken care of folks with meals on wheels and those kinds of things. But now the need is just so much greater now, and finding a way to try to meet that need was our goal.
And that includes demonstrating faith in action.
I want us to be known as the church that when we were in our greatest need, we took care of people in their greatest need.
The Food Plus Faith Equals Hope initiative officially runs through July 3rd, although LeBlanc and others plan to keep handing out hope for as long as needed.
There are some individuals and populations that experience food insecurity throughout the year. So right now, we're doing a little bit more for this population, but I anticipate that we will need to do even more once we are beyond the pandemic.
The meal counts are unbelievable, over 3,000 meals a day. That number keeps going up every day. We add more people to the distribution program. We're determined, we're committed. We're going to stand in as long as we need to.
That's all the time we have for this edition of Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.